Welcome to Becoming. Before we begin, I want to ask you one question. Who are you becoming? Not who you've been, not who others expect you to be, but who are you becoming today? Hi there, I'm Laura, and together we're discovering what it looks like to become the person God created us to be. Let's get started. It's amazing how quickly life can change. One moment you're making plans for the future, and the next you're wondering how you're going to make it through the week. When I was 40 years old, I made one of the biggest decisions of my life. I went to college. There were days I wondered if I was too old, days I questioned whether I could really do it. But 6 years later, I graduated and accepted my very first teaching position. It wasn't just a job to me. It was the beginning of a dream. I loved my students. I loved learning. I loved walking into my classroom every morning. After 6 years of hard work, I finally felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Then, 3 months later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I decided to have a double mastectomy. When I met with my surgeon, Dr. Monday, he asked me when I'd like to have my surgery. I told him I have the week off at Thanksgiving, so I'd like to have surgery on the Monday before Thanksgiving so I could heal. He smiled, scratched his head, and said, "Laura, you don't really think you're going back to work the Monday after Thanksgiving, do you?" And I said, "Of course, I heal quickly. I'll be okay." He looked at me and said, "No, Laura, you will need 6 weeks off." 6 weeks? That's all I heard. I had just started teaching. I hadn't been there long enough to earn 6 weeks of leave. My mind immediately started racing. How was I going to pay my bills? How was I going to pay my insurance premium? If I couldn't pay my insurance premiums, how was I going to pay for the treatment I so desperately needed? I wish I could tell you that I immediately had complete faith, but I didn't. I was scared. I prayed, I cried, I worried. I lay awake trying to solve problems that didn't have answers yet. Maybe you've been there. Not necessarily with cancer, just with life. That place where your mind keeps asking questions and your heart can't find any peace. Looking back now, I realize something. We spend so much of our lives believing we have to have everything figured out. But sometimes life brings us to a place where we simply can't. Sometimes the next step is all we can see. And that's where I was. I didn't know how everything was going to work out. I didn't know how I was going to keep teaching. I didn't know how I was going to make it financially. And I didn't know how I was going to get through cancer. All I knew was the next step. And that was enough for that day. What I didn't know was that while I was worrying, God was already working. I just couldn't see it yet. Next week, I'm going to tell you what happened after that conversation with Dr. Monday. It's one of the greatest reminders I've ever experienced that even when we can't see what God is doing, He never stops working. And before you go, I want to leave you with the same question I started with. Who are you becoming? Until next time, keep becoming.